$50,000 shouldn't feel impossible. It's not $1 million. It's not some billionaire fantasy. It's a number that sounds reasonable, achievable, responsible. And yet, for most people, it feels like climbing a mountain in slow motion. You save, you budget, you skip trips, you say no to things your friends say yes to. Your bank account creeps up. $3,000, $7,500, $12,000. And then something breaks. Car repair, medical bill, random life chaos. Suddenly, you're back at $9,400 wondering if you're just bad at money. Here's the part nobody tells you. The first $50,000 is not just financially hard, it's psychologically brutal because the effort feels massive and the progress feels tiny. You start asking dangerous questions. Is this even worth it? Why does it feel like I'm running but not moving? Am I just stuck at this level? Now wait, because the struggle you're feeling isn't random. It's built into how money grows. And once you see why, everything starts to make more sense. The slow phase is where most people quietly quit. Not publicly, not dramatically, just internally. You hit $5,000 and it feels good. You hit $10,000 and you think, okay, I'm getting somewhere. But somewhere around 15K or 20K, the excitement fades. Here's the thing. The effort required to save your first $20,000 is enormous compared to what it looks like on paper. You're fighting habits. You're fighting impulse spending. You're fighting lifestyle pressure. You're fighting your own impatience. And the reward? A few $100s a year in interest. That's it. This is where it gets ugly. At $10,000 invested, earning 7%, you make $700 in a year. That's about $58 a month. You've probably spent more than that on takeout without thinking. So your brain does the math emotionally, not logically. All this discipline for that? Now add real life, a wedding, a move, a layoff scare, inflation creeping into everything. You feel like you're sprinting on a treadmill. And this is the identity conflict phase. You see yourself as someone who is trying to build wealth, but your bank account still looks average, ordinary, fragile. That gap between effort and visible progress is dangerous, because humans are wired to continue behaviors that show clear results. And in the early stages of building wealth, results are painfully invisible. It feels like pushing a heavy rock uphill. Every step forward costs energy. Every pause risks sliding backward. Most people don't fail because they're irresponsible. They fail because this phase feels endless. But the reason it feels endless isn't motivational. It's mathematical. Let's do the math. Let's do the math, because this is where the illusion lives. Imagine you have $10,000 invested. You earn 7% a year. That's $700. Not life-changing, not even rent money in most cities. Now, imagine you save aggressively and push it to $25,000. At 7%, that's $1,750 a year. Better, but still not impressive. It doesn't feel like momentum, it feels like maintenance. Here's the problem. In the early stages, almost all the growth comes from you, your effort, your income, your discipline. The money isn't working that hard yet. You are. This is like pushing a massive flywheel. At the beginning, every push feels heavy. You lean into it, it barely moves. You push again, still slow. And because it's slow, your brain starts questioning the system. Maybe investing isn't that powerful. Maybe I need higher returns. Maybe this isn't worth it. Now wait, watch what happens when you hit 50,000. At 7%, that's $3,500 a year, about $290 a month. That's when something subtle changes. For the first time, your money starts contributing in a way you can actually see. It's no longer just your paycheck doing the heavy lifting. The asset base is large enough that compounding becomes noticeable. But here's what's deceptive. The growth curve isn't linear, it's exponential. Early growth looks flat, almost boring. Then it bends. Think of it like heating water. You can raise the temperature from 30 degrees to 90 degrees and nothing dramatic happens. It just looks like hot water. But at 100 degrees, it boils. The early 90% feels pointless. The final few degrees change everything. And most people quit at 90, not because they're incapable, because they misread the curve. But math isn't the only barrier here. The harder wall isn't financial. It's psychological. The psychological wall at $50,000 is subtle. It's not obvious like debt. It doesn't feel dramatic like losing a job. It's quieter than that. It sounds like this: I've saved a decent amount. Maybe I can relax a little. This is where it gets dangerous. Up until now, you've been operating from scarcity. You're careful, focused, intentional. Every dollar has a job. But as your net worth climbs, your brain starts whispering a new story. You're doing fine. You deserve to upgrade. You've earned it. And technically, you have. But here's the trap. Right before compounding really starts to accelerate, lifestyle creep shows up. Better apartment, new car, nicer vacations. Nothing insane, just small upgrades that quietly absorb the surplus that was fueling your growth. So instead of pushing from $50K to $75K quickly, you stall. Not because you can't save, but because you stop feeling urgency. There's another mental shift too. When you only have $8,000 invested, risk feels terrifying. A market drop feels personal. Every fluctuation feels like proof you're doing something wrong. But around $40K or $50K, something changes. You've proven to yourself that you can build. You've survived volatility. You've rebuilt after setbacks. Confidence starts replacing fear. And this is the fork in the road. Some people use that confidence to double down. Others use it as permission to slow down. The difference between those two decisions determines whether 50,000 becomes a plateau or a launch pad. Now, let's talk about what actually changes after you cross it. Here's what actually changes after 50,000. Not magically, not overnight, but measurably. First, your money starts showing up in the results. At 50,000 earning 7%, you're making $3,500 a year. Now, imagine you keep contributing and reach $75,000. That's $5,250 a year. Notice something? The gap between 50K and 75K adds $1,750 in annual growth. That's the same amount 25K was generating earlier. In other words, the bigger the base, the harder compounding works. This is where it gets interesting. At $100,000 invested at 7%, you're making $7,000 a year. That's over $58 a month. Now your money is covering real expenses: a car payment, utilities, groceries. For the first time, you can feel leverage. And psychologically, that changes everything. You stop seeing investing as sacrifice. You start seeing it as power. There's another shift too. Early on, every contribution feels heavy. Saving $500 feels like effort. After 50K, gains start matching or even exceeding what you contribute. You put in $500, the market adds $400. Suddenly, you feel like you have a partner. That's the momentum phase. Your identity changes quietly. You're no longer trying to build wealth. You are someone who has built wealth. That shift affects behavior. You think longer term. You make fewer impulsive decisions. You tolerate volatility better because you've seen recovery before. And most importantly, the fear of being broke fades. Not because you're rich, but because you've built proof. Proof that you can create assets. Proof that growth compounds. Proof that discipline works. The climb after 50K isn't easier because life changes. It's easier because the math and your mindset finally start to work together. But here's what most people miss. The real secret isn't the number. The real secret isn't 50,000. It's surviving the phase where nothing feels like it's working. That's it. Most people think wealth is about intelligence or timing or picking the right stock. It's not. It's about enduring the boring middle. The part where you're consistent but unseen. The part where your effort doesn't get applause. The part where your account grows slowly enough to feel pointless. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The first $50,000 forces you to become someone different. More patient, less impulsive, less impressed by status, more focused on long-term gain over short-term dopamine. That identity shift is the real asset.
Because once you've built that, scaling becomes mechanical. If you can reach $50,000 once, you can reach $100,000. If you can reach $100,000, the next $100,000 often comes faster than the first. Not because you got lucky, because you stopped quitting during the invisible phase. So if you're stuck at 12K or 23K or 41K, you're not behind. You're in the hardest stretch. And the only people who never see compounding bend upward are the ones who step off the curve too early. So if you're somewhere between $0 and $50,000 right now, this is the part you need to hear. Nothing is wrong with you. The frustration you feel is not a sign that you're bad at money. It's a sign that you're in the slow build phase, and the slow build phase is designed to test your patience.
Here's the thing. When progress is invisible, discipline feels irrational. You're delaying pleasure today for a future version of yourself you can't clearly see yet. That's uncomfortable. That's unnatural. And that's exactly why most people don't make it past this stage. But once you cross that $50,000 line, something clicks. Your gains start to matter. Your confidence compounds. Your decisions become calmer. Your timeline stretches. And suddenly, wealth stops feeling like a fantasy and starts feeling like a trajectory. That's the shift. Not magic, not hype, not some secret hack, just math meeting mindset at the same time. So don't obsess over the speed. Obsess over staying in the game long enough for the curve to bend, because the first $50,000 is the hardest, and if you're still climbing, that means you haven't quit, which means you're closer than you think.